Welcome back, Curious Hearts. I'm Vera. Together, in every episode, we get to explore what it is we really believe, how we practice, and we get to meet people who are on their own spiritual path. Together, we begin. Hey, y'all, welcome back. I am really thrilled today to have this conversation with Aycee Brown. She has recently published a book called Embody Your Magic. And we have a lot in common in that we are both deeply rooted into a spiritual world without it removing us from the material world. Like I have this intuition, right, that we have 2 feet solidly in both worlds, and that is not super common. And so I'm just really excited to hear about your journey and your experience. And I wonder if there's anything that you want to share before we jump in.
No, thank you for having me.
Yeah. So I always start with the beginning because I think our personal history inspires so much. So will you share a little bit about what your spiritual and or religious life was like growing up as a child?
Yeah, absolutely. So, religion was interesting because we grew up, well, my mom, her brothers and sisters grew up Catholic. And so when I came around, it was still the same thing, but a little bit not so much Catholicism. My grandmother, after my grandfather died, I believe that's when she joined the Church of Unity. And she
Hmm.
started to go to Unity, probably. I know Eric Butterworth was, preaching then. So she would go to Unity, and so it would be a little bit of mix of both. But I grew up mostly, if she did go to church, it would be the Catholic church, or sometimes we would go to an AME church. It really depended. But it was mostly Unity and, reading the daily word every day. She would get at all of us grandkids, everybody a copy, and we, have to read that every morning, either before school or something, or maybe after school if we were like with her. So that was kind of the religious, but it was mostly a spiritual base.
Yeah.
So more spirituality, more um, just healing, hoodoo stuff, like just, but a combination. It wasn't any hierarchy or anything when it came to religion versus spirituality.
Yeah. And will you tell me a little bit more about your grandmother? Like
hmm
what's her name and what was your relationship with her like?
Well, I won't say her name.
Okay, that's fair.
Just I won't say her name, but she was just a really great human. Every family has their flaws, all of that stuff, but she's from a little town in North Carolina, and she moved to a bigger city, which was Baltimore, Maryland. And at the time, her uncle owned, I believe, 2 dry cleaners. And so my grandmother came to work for him, and she used to deliver um, the dry cleaning to some of the wealthier Black families, upper middle class Black families. And one day
Mhm.
she went knocking on the door, and my grandfather was home from college for the day, because he went to Morgan State in
Ooh.
Baltimore. And well, yeah, well, in the Maryland area, but and then that's how they met, and then they fell in love. And yeah, that's that's part of how I got here. So
I love that
yeah.
story.
So, and then they moved to New York, and they spent their life there. My grandfather was in the Korean War. And then he came back and he worked for the Postal Service for until the day he died. So,
Wow. That's extraordinary. And so clearly, like, she was a really important part of your growing up. Um, when you think about, like, your understanding of that spiritual life from, that those childlike eyes, were there things that you saw specifically or things that you were curious about?
yeah, I mean, I was curious about everything. I'm still curious about everything, but I think when it comes to her, just the offshoot is that I am my grandmother used to call me, the only one or whatever, because I'm the only person on my mother's side and on my father's side who doesn't have a brother or sister. So
Hmm.
I'm an only child. So I'm an only, as my grandma used
Mhm.
to say.
Yeah.
So I don't have a brother or sister, none of that. So it's just me. So I learned a lot of things about myself very early on, how to be self-sufficient, how to be okay with being by myself. I learned so many things. I still learn so many things from being an only child.
Yeah.
Being an only child to the youngest in a family of 8, mind you. My mom
Mm.
is the youngest, so that is another conundrum.
Hmm.
My mom's the youngest, and then my dad is. I think my dad's the oldest on his one or the
Hmm.
other. So it's yeah, it's a mess.
No, it's
So
perfect, right? I mean, it's like the complications of family are sort of like our initiation in a lot of
mm-hmm.
ways in the beginning. And it's why I always want to ask people like where do we start?
Yeah.
Because where we are now is so informed by,
Mm-hmm.
what our parents believed, what we were around, the things that, the like little traditions, like are we sweeping and cleaning always on Sunday and singing, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
what are the traditions and the practices that get handed down without us even necessarily noticing it?
Right. Or
Um,
or trying to decipher which ones really belong to you and matter and which don't, that you can let go.
yeah.
So
And that to me is probably one of the most important moments of our sort of coming into adulthood, right? To being able to, I mean, as you said, like to really embody our beliefs, our values, the things that matter to us. Um, so that's a little bit about your background. Will you share? I don't know. Maybe is there something? Was there a moment for you that was really pivotal in your spiritual evolution?
yeah, I mean, I it's so funny. It's just more recently, me and my dad were talking about it, just talking about the book and everything, and my abilities and psychic stuff and mediumship and everything. And we think that it came on when I had a near death experience. I got burned when I was 4, and I
Mm,
remember everything about my life from that point, from that actual night to like now. And I think that's when it kind of came on, like
mm,
really came on. Before that, I did remember, like having imaginary friends, stuff like that. But after that, I was much, much, much more spiritually sensitive after
mm,
that moment.
yeah. I have heard other people talk about that, especially in their like younger childhood into adolescence, that like when they can see or experience things that maybe not everybody does, that it can be sort of disorienting or scary. I don't want to put that on you, but I'm curious, like, was it ever something that you were like, you felt like you needed to hide, or did you feel like you were encouraged or supported in that?
I was encouraged and supported, because a lot of my stuff came through my dreams. So that's how
Mm,
my grandmother would talk to me about my dreams, and we would decipher dreams in the morning, when she lived with me, when it was more in high school. But then before it would just be, her writing stuff down and asking me questions. So it was almost like I had somebody like training me and teaching me in the psychic and spiritual world, that I didn't realize it, because that's how I learned a lot of symbolism and a lot of things because of my dreams that I would have. So I don't remember my life without the spiritual component to it, without some of the things that I do talk about all the time, numerology, like all of these things. Like I don't know a life outside of it. So it is, sometimes it might come off that I look at people, or not even judgmentally, but just more like I'm not cognizant that they're not aware of these things, because it's been a part of my life for so much.
that makes so much sense to me. And it's so interesting because I hear you tell that story, and I am honestly, my reaction is I'm just so jealous,
Okay.
because I grew up inside of like a very intellectual academic household. We can talk about the influence you know, of white supremacy and that, about like all of those pieces that got stripped away. And it meant that I didn't come into a spiritual life until later, right? And
Mm,
and in a similar way, like the way that that gets pulled out um in a traumatic experience, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that often is the doorway for folks who don't have that kind of lineage. And similarly, that I often have been, you know, it makes me sad, mournful that I don't have that same kind of like, you had guidance, right? You had encouragement, and that is uh such a gift. Like I'm delighted that you did and that
Oh,
we get to benefit from it.
well, thanks. No, I'm delighted that I did too. Just because I don't, I, I think just because I have a different way of viewing the world with it, and I always laugh, and there's a running joke sometimes you'll see in the astrology community. I'm a Sagittarius rising, so I'm ruled by Jupiter, and they're like, don't,
Mhm.
they're like, don't trust people who are ruled by Jupiter. They're lucky. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but still,
Well,
I'm
but
always
where's
gonna
your
have a
Jupiter?
hmm.
Where's your Jupiter placed in your chart?
It's in my 11th house in Libra.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
and it's
good.
also conjunct my Saturn, which is in Libra, which is exalted. So I have a lot of exalted
Aha.
planets. Yeah, so it's just yeah. So things work
So
out for me. Yes.
so we also we're gonna hopefully we can take a moment, and the folks who are listening who don't know as much of astrology will just forgive us. We have the astrology side in common.
Oh, good.
So I also have that Saturn, exalted Saturn in Libra.
Oh, okay.
Um, but my rising is Leo. My sun
Oh.
is in Libra, and
Mm.
then I have a moon in Pisces in the eighth.
Oh, okay. I'm a Pisces, Sun, Mars, and Venus, but I'm a Taurus
Oh.
moon and Sagittarius rising. But I have a
Man, you really
stellium.
do have a lot of exalted
Yeah.
planets.
Yes. Then I have a
Good.
stellium in Libra, and then I have two bigger outer planets in my first house, Uranus and Neptune.
You have
And
that
Neptune
Uranus
is
Neptune
conjunct,
conjunction. Yeah.
yeah. And Neptune is conjunct my ascendant, so
So you're doing it,
yeah,
right? I mean, like you are
yeah,
absolutely living that chart. Like the
yeah.
Sagittarius rising of, I mean, I'm telling you stuff that's basic, but for the
No,
folks
no,
who
no.
don't
It's
understand this, right? It's like,
listen. I like hearing about it. And my North Node is in Leo in my ninth
mhm,
house. With and then I have my Mercury and my South Node in my third house in Aquarius.
mhm. God, it's all just right on, right? I mean, you have so that Sagittarius rising is like the teacher, right? You said I've always been curious, right?
Mm-hmm.
That like deep study, like always hungry for knowledge. But Neptune, which is the spiritual, right on your ascendant. I was like, okay, great. So you're doing a great job living that chart. Um, okay, do you mind if we take just the tiniest detour? Because I have one more
Yeah,
question about
sure.
this. You have Uranus Neptune conjunction in the first, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
that Uranus Neptune conjunction often can be about um, maybe disrupting existing systems of belief,
Yeah.
right? That's one way that we might
And
put
and
it.
I wouldn't say it's a conjunct just because they're so far apart. My Uranus
Okay.
is at 0 degrees.
Okay. Okay. So they're not
So
they're not super close to each other.
no, they're not,
Okay.
because my Neptune is at 24,
Okay.
and then
So
I
really
have
just co-present. Okay,
yeah,
fair.
and then my ascendant is at the galactic of 26.
Uh-huh.
So
Of course it
yeah.
is. Okay, so now I want to know, like, what was your how did you discover astrology, and what role has that played for you
Well,
in this
I grew
journey?
up, like I grew up in a very, growing up in, I would even say junior high, high school. My mom was pretty verbally and emotionally abusive, very manipulative and stuff. But she has her own stuff, right? No excuse for it, but that's the reality. So I thought something was wrong with me
Mm,
because of the stuff that I would hear from her
sure.
about my actions and about things. I'm just like, but I'm only 15, I'm only 14. And so that's how I found astrology, as I started looking into to see what was wrong with me. That's really how I discovered it. I'm like, well, shit, if something's wrong with me, excuse my language, sorry.
Yeah, no,
I'm
you
like, well,
can.
let me figure out what's wrong with me. And then I started dissecting my chart and figuring
Mm,
out stuff. Yeah, I was like, yeah, 13, 14. because I brought my first self-help book because I thought something was wrong with me at 14. Because I was like,
God,
well,
that breaks my heart.
I was like, God, I gotta change my life.
I have to write. There's something
I
wrong
have
here.
to
I have to
I have
fix
to
it.
change my life. So I went and brought a Les Brown book.
And you opened it up and you're like, oh, it turns out what was that experience of like, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. This is.
No, it wasn't. It was more like, all right, I'm gonna change my life. It
Mm,
was very much so. I'm gonna change my life. With the astrology, it was more like, okay, I understand the gifts that I have. I understand my placements. And then I started using that a lot when it came to dating and stuff like that, and who would be right for me and all of that stuff. So
yeah. Yeah. The way that we all use it.
yes,
Right. It's like used to be like now we can just Google somebody, but
right.
then. So I love that. How did that like tender teenager who both has these extraordinary gifts, but also like is afraid something is wrong with her? How does she arrive as somebody who is now coaching other people into really living their full, complete self and really showing up in the world? Like that's a huge growth.
Well, I've been giving advice since high school, since homeroom. So, and reading people since homeroom. That hasn't changed. It just wasn't in a professional manner. It was more of, oh, you think you know everything, but I do kind of thing. So it was more of that. And then
Hmm.
it just kind of, I think probably in college, I, that was when I had more of a consultative approach, because with my psychic mediumship, all of that stuff, I knew that what I was saying was accurate because certain industries that I was trying to get into at the time, which were entertainment, PR, I would always have amazing ideas that will work out. And then people started asking me, like adults, like, well, what do you think about this? And I
Mm,
used to do, I probably wasn't charging back then, but I used to give people business ideas and they would use them and then they would pay me for them. That's actually a skill that I'm very, very good at. I don't advertise it like I should, because I would probably charge to a lot, because I have,
I'm like, go get it.
yeah, I
Go get
have a
it.
very, very strong talent for that. I can just see what you're good at, what you should be doing. I can map out the whole thing and all of that. And it also helps to have an MBA in marketing. So that helps as well, right? So,
Hmm.
yeah, so it's just one of those things. And so I was always giving advice, always reading people. People were always asking me about their situations. Whether they listened or not is a different story.
Hmm.
But so I was always doing this. I don't know, yeah, especially like, yeah, when I got to high school, junior, I don't know anything but like before that.
So it for you, it doesn't feel like anything changed. You kept being yourself and let the world show up around
Yeah,
you.
it just became my business. It became a full time. That's really what happened.
Yeah. Will you share a little bit about what you do sort of professionally during the day? Like, what does that business look like now?
Well, now I work with individuals, I work with corporations, I work with founders, I work with all sorts of people. I like to say people who are either in the midst of their crossroads in life and looking for their proper direction. I help them kind of steer them in the right direction. I work in a in a consultative kind of way, depending on if people hire me for certain things. Retreats, I have my own programs, group coaching, community, one on one work. So it's a lot of ways that people can work with me. There's some that I don't advertise.
Mhm.
I've worked with, public figures, celebrities, all of that stuff. So it's
Yeah.
just one of those things where I have a lot of ways to work with me, but my biggest thing is I like to say is I teach people how to play the cards that they've been dealt in life.
Mhm.
And that's where my skill is to see into you and if you allow me to, we can get all of it together. We can get
Right?
everything together.
I feel like that is one of the hardest it was one of the hardest lessons for me as a coach is that unless somebody is coming to me and asking for it, I can't, right? I can't help. But as soon as somebody comes open and willing,
Right. The open and
yeah,
willing.
yeah,
When I was younger, I think probably in my early 20s, I think that kind of made me upset when people didn't listen to my advice or they would wait. But
same.
never fail. People be like, "Oh my God, you were right. I should have did." I'm like, "I know. You should have just listened the first time. We wouldn't have to go through this."
My best friend has a Sagittarius rising. And
Oh,
they're like, yeah, like here's the problem is that like I don't want to act like I know everything, but the reality is I kind of
I
know everything.
do. I do. I promise.
Ex-
I promise. I
Yeah,
promise. I
I love
promise
it.
you I do.
It's so funny. Um, so you are very busy then. I mean, and then on top of that, you wrote a book, and I know how much work that is. It's
Yeah.
not
So
for the
it's a
faint of
lot.
heart.
No, it's a lot of work.
What does your personal spiritual life look like today?
Talking to my grandmother, she's on, one of my main altars, waking up, speaking to her, speaking to my guides, meditating as much as I can. Sometimes I don't get to it during the day, but I do at night. Writing, reading, going for walks in nature, just thinking, um, always seeking ways to learn. I have, mentors all over the, world who's, sometimes I'll take a class with them or something like that just to refresh, just to dig deeper into something. So I'm always on a journey or a quest to learn something, to grow, to heal. I have my therapist, I have my own, therapeutic practices, all of that stuff. So I'm always learning, growing, healing, being curious, wanting to be innovative. That's really important to me. That's a value of mine is innovation.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. The thing that feels important and like what I hear in that is the knowledge that like most folks who have a spiritual gift have said that like in the end, everything you do has to be a part of your spiritual life, right? You have to be anchoring into it all the time, keeping it as clear as possible so that you can be the most honest vessel there is,
Mm-hmm.
right? I love that. Is there a practice that you have been going back to lately, especially in the process? I mean, folks who are listening may or may not understand what a journey writing a book is. You are braver than I am. I got to the first draft of the manuscript and I was like, I hate this so much I can never look at it again. My hope is that one day I will pick it up again. But it's a really it's a journey.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what is centering you? Like what's your like go to right now?
Right now, reading actually,
Hmm.
and reading fiction books. Um, Also, still reading nonfiction. Um, Reading history, stuff like that is
Yeah.
really important to me. But reading, good stories. I love historical fiction.
Yeah.
Um, so reading about my people and
Yeah.
different eras. Also watching, shows that I like over and over again, like Scandal. I started Scandal from the beginning again.
Oh my God.
Um,
I needed to hear that today. It's like, oh yes, yes. I think now is the time to go back
yeah,
to
I
Scandal.
I always rewatch it, or I'm rewatching again season 3 of the Gilded Age because I'm looking forward to season 4.
Mhm.
Just reading fiction is
Yeah.
helping nonfiction. I get a lot of advanced copies of books, so there's books that I'm like really, really like, oh, I can't wait till I get a hard copy of it because I hate digital copies of books. But there's
Same.
some really good books that are coming out that I'm just like, oh, this is so good.
Yeah.
So,
What are you reading right now? Like what's on your nightstand?
two books actually. One is called Dominion, which is hilarious. It is about a black church in the 2000s, I believe, and something happens, and it's just about the congregation, all the things that are happening in the congregation. And then another book that I'm reading is called The American Daughters, and it is about right now. I just started that. Sometimes I will dual read, and that one is about uh, women in who are the two characters right now are slaves, and they're in New Orleans. So
Hmm.
it's talking about, but the book goes somewhere deeper about it, like a different secret organization that they, that forms through
Mhm.
magic and some other stuff. And then I've been skimming, well, not skimming, but just kind of reading because it doesn't come out yet. It hasn't come out yet. But I think it comes out. When does it come out? I can tell you because it's a very, very, very good book. Um, I think it comes out in, geez, I'm gonna tell you because it's really important. I think people should read it. I believe this book comes out sometime in August, but it is written by Malcolm X's daughter. It's called Malcolm in the Desert: Wisdom from the Spiritual Transformation of Malcolm X. So this is after he left the Nation of Islam and
Wow.
he went to uh, talk, and he went, to when he went overseas and everything, and he was discovering himself. I don't remember when it comes out, but I have an advanced copy and it's really, really good.
I
But
it sounds amazing.
yeah, but his
And
daughter, she wrote it and she talked about some of, I think it was like some of his diary entries and stuff and all of that stuff.
wow, what a gift. Um, I'm so excited about that. Well, I'll look it up and make sure to share it in the show notes, the dates. Uh, when you were sharing about American daughters,
Hmm.
um, have you been to New Orleans?
No, I haven't.
Okay. When you come to New Orleans, because you will come at some point, I hope that you will look me up because the energy in this
That's the
place.
only reason why I haven't been.
I know,
That's the
which I
only
get.
reason why I haven't been. I'm like,
Yeah.
I do not.
I don't know if I want to open that. Yeah, no, it's
Yeah, so
loud.
that's the thing. Yeah, I'm very sensitive
Yes,
to
I
stuff
get
like
that.
that. So
I get that.
it has to be. I think when I'm ready, it'll
Yeah.
be the right time. It'll be paid for, not by me.
Yes.
It'll be.
No,
That's how
100%.
I'm thinking. It'll be paid for, not by
Yeah, we
me.
will
I'll be in
like we
luxury accommodations. It will be very good.
yes, you will be you'll be in a safe place, you will be protected.
Yes, it'll be very taken care of, and then I'll come.
It is the thing that is really interesting to me. I have spent and I don't talk about this a lot publicly, but I've spent some time on the river, on the opposite side of the river in Algiers. And I think that the river is part of the reason that like so much gets stuck here because of the way that the curve is. And the first time I went over there because of the history of that land and the things that happened there, I was expecting it to be really heavy. Instead there's this like playful, light, joyful, like the energies there just want to play.
Mm.
Even just thinking about it now, like I have goosebumps. But yeah, anyway, so what I will say is that there is a lot of energy, and I really respect you, like making sure that you take care of yourself. And also, like, not all of the energy is heavy and dark. There's also a
Yeah, and
lot
I'm
of
not
light.
even
Yeah,
expecting it to be heavy and dark. It's just, being prepared for it, really.
yeah,
For
that makes so much
whatever.
sense.
Yeah, for whatever comes.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Um, so then our last question is really like, what the world is changing. I
Hmm.
just had a different conversation with somebody about this that I don't think it doesn't matter who you talk to, and everyone understands that the world is in a state of transformation right now. People have a different story about what that change looks like, sure, but um, and I think in moments of change, we have to anchor into like the principles, right? You've already mentioned one. I'm not going to cede it, but is there a spiritual principle that feels really important for you right now?
Yeah, just, I mean, I talk about this a lot everywhere, because people ask me this all the time. But, and I'll start here. This, and I literally lead with this. This is the most information that we've ever had access to in our lifetimes. So, your grandparents, your great grandparents, they did not have this much information. We literally have information second by second, minute by minute, hour by hour. And like I said, I am very, I do a lot of research. One of my aunts was a Black Panther when she was, younger. So I'm very in tune with rights and all of that stuff. And I also do my own research. But I look at the civil rights era. I look at those eras because, just trying to look at the history and the difference. And I say that the difference is that they were able to go home and be with their communities and turn off the information and get back into their bodies and then go back out and then recharge and fight the good fight. We don't have that option because everything, we have so much information and access. So the thing that you need to do right now is to get into your body, turn off the TV, stop scrolling, find something that you like, read. Reading is very important. I tell people, please start buying physical books if you can, not digital books. Um, yeah, that's important. So
Hmm.
just reading and just comprehending and understanding how to do research, but also just being in your bodies because this is the most information that we've
Yeah,
ever had access to. And just thinking about, the 50s, 60s, they could go home and
yeah,
turn off the radio and turn off the TV and just, and they didn't have, it wasn't 24/7. So that's probably the biggest thing is to get back into
yeah,
your body, see how your body feels, ground yourself in your neighborhood, ground yourself around where you live, feel the trees, put your feet in the grass, smell the air, like do those things. Because they, the information that we have is on purpose. Yes, it's informative, but they want you to be so numb and so um just overloaded to where you don't care because it's
yeah,
too much and
yeah,
we can't afford to not care. So you have to cut it off at some point, but be back into your body
yeah.
and, you know, see what else is coming our way.
I just from your lips to God's ears to everywhere out in the planet. Um, I've been thinking a lot about this. I'm a yoga teacher, so you're just like singing my song right now. Um, but I also have been digging in a little bit now into like I keep thinking about Adrienne Marie Brown's statement that the revolution must be irresistible.
Mhm.
And like one of the ways that that happens is like we have to like it has to feel good. And like so the ways that it's not an accident how many movements are rooted in singing and movement, right? That
Mhm.
like being together in movement, being together in song is a way of like being in our bodies together. And how resetting that is. And
Mhm.
it's such an important message for people to hear right now. Because yeah, otherwise it's like, yeah, it's just information overload. And the way that our dopamine seeking brains are like, oh no, but I want to I want more information. How do I get more information? How do I keep getting more information? Um,
And some of the information is not even correct.
Correct.
That's the
Exactly.
problem. No
Yeah.
one's researching. No
Right.
one's going the distance and figuring it out.
Yeah. And it's yeah, we could go down a rabbit hole about critical thinking skills and evaluation and all of that for sure.
Yeah.
No, we won't do that. Everybody already knows. The folks who are listening are folks who are with us on this for sure. I just am so grateful that you were willing to spend this time with us, and I want to say thank you again. Um, is there anything that you want to leave us with? Do you want to tell people where to find you and where to find the book?
Yes, absolutely. But you can find the book wherever it is. Embody Your Magic, create the life of your dreams through astrology, human design, mediumship, all of that stuff. And you can find me at aceebrown.com. If you want to work with me, hire me to come speak at your company or retreat, just send us an email. And all of that. And I also have a podcast too, is my Aura on Straight, where I talk about all things human design, astrology, self development, all of that. And then, of course, on my socials, you can find me on the Instagram, TikToks, all of that.
All the places. I know all the
Yes.
places, all the information. I will tell you that I have a not so secret dream that at some point in the future, all of the extraordinary voices who have been on the podcast will be in New Orleans. So maybe it will be me
Oh,
who
that would
who
be
pays
nice.
for all of your trip to come down here in
Yeah,
your full
I'll
luxury.
come. Yes.
Um, and it's been such a fascinating and diverse group of folks. And everybody has such a, I don't know, I would love to just be in a room with all of y'all.
Oh, and how long have you lived in New Orleans for?
Since I was 2.5.
Oh, so you're from New
So
Orleans.
yeah, I am. It's complicated because we moved here when I was a little kid, and New Orleans is a very parochial place. Less so now after Katrina. Um, but I really am sort of a local but my family doesn't live here. So it's a really interesting.
Oh,
So in
okay.
a lot of ways, like New Orleans kind of is my family. I think
Oh, I
about that
like
a lot.
that.
Yeah,
I
it's a
like
really
that.
yeah. It had the history of the place is really present all the time. So
Yeah.
thank you so much, AC. I hope that you have a great rest of your day, and I'm looking forward to reading Embody Your Magic.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks for tuning in, Curious Hearts. If this episode was useful, I hope you'll follow the show or leave a review or share it with somebody who you think needs it. And if you're craving support on your own spiritual path or seeking some meaningful work, you can find ways to work with me at veralester.com. Otherwise, until next time, please stay grounded in that curiosity that you've got and keep turning towards what matters. See y'all soon.